Fantastic. So good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick McLaughlin, and I am the ranch manager, outdoor school principal at Walker Creek Ranch. Very happy that you're able to join us this evening. If you would like to hear this presentation in Spanish, again, if you want to just click the interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. Asti Cabrera is doing a Spanish translation for us. So thank you, Asti. I also want to thank Melina Boyd, who's helping with the slide deck tonight as well. Can we go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Melina? All right, so we are so excited to start to serve students and guests here at Walker Creek Ranch again. One of the questions that I love to ask folks whenever I meet with them or do presentations is if they've ever been to Walker Creek Ranch before. I also love to ask if they've ever had a student, friend, or relative that's been to Walker Creek Ranch in the past as well, and what they have said about the ranch. You know, it's funny, I have met people from all over the place that have been to Walker Creek Ranch, and they've had, you know, wonderful things to say about their experience. You know, the other question that I like to ask is, are folks excited to have students join us for the week at Walker Creek Ranch? Are you excited to have your student, or if you're going to be joining us, are you excited to come to Walker Creek Ranch? Is a great question. And, you know, the other question that I like to ask is, are you nervous, or are you nervous about sending your student to Walker Creek Ranch for the week? And oftentimes folks are nervous. They're excited and they're nervous at the same time. And our goal tonight is to provide some ease and to answer questions so that you feel comfortable sending your most precious thing, your child, your student, your brother, your sister, to Walker Creek Ranch. And so that's our goal tonight, is to provide some ease for you, and also to get you excited about what the week's gonna be like and the experience is gonna be like for your student. So go ahead and click to the next slide, Melina. So the highest priority for us is the safety and well-being of students here at Walker Creek Ranch. And not just physical, we definitely want to make sure students are physically safe, but we also want to make sure that they are emotionally and mentally supported as well while they're here. So our highest priority, please know, is the physical, emotional, and mental well-being of your student while they are here with us at Walker Creek Ranch, as well as making sure that everyone is feeling welcome, everyone is being included in all of the activities that we are doing while they're at the ranch. A little bit about our staff. We have very capable and experienced staff here at Walker Creek Ranch. Walker Creek Ranch is owned and operated by the Marin County Office of Education. And so all of the staff that work at Walker Creek Ranch are work for a public agency. And so they have, you know, background checks, they're mandated reporters, they're first aid CPR certified, and they're just wonderful, wonderful people that love teaching students outside. And, you know, I've been working in outdoor education for close to 20 years. And so we have a very experienced staff that care very much about your kids. In addition, we have COVID protocols and emergency protocols. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We have a well-stocked health center, and we have trainings for our students and our staff to ensure that we're going to be safe and have a wonderful week when the students are here. Back to the COVID protocols. So specific to protocol, the COVID protocols at Walker Creek Ranch, we are finishing up putting together our final touches on our protocols. We're meeting with the public health department next week to go over them. Our plan is to have those protocols posted on our website, as well as sent to all of our schools next week. But a couple of high-level things for our protocols. Obviously, we're going to be following all federal, state, and local guidelines when it comes to COVID-19 and safety. And, you know, we're also going to be a bit more stringent on our procedures just because of the residential nature of the outdoor school program. We will be asking that all students are tested before they come to Walker Creek Ranch, and we'll be working with the schools in order to support that request. We'll have protocols and communications in place to respond to any participant that has tested positive for COVID-19 while they're here at the ranch or has symptoms. And we have a lot of increased training, also higher levels of cleaning procedures and access to essential protective equipment as needed. So we have lots of protocols in place to make sure that we can run a residential outdoor school program while we're still dealing with COVID in a safe way. Go ahead and click to the next slide, please. So a little bit about Walker Creek Ranch. Again, it's owned and operated by the Marin County Office of Education. It's one of the oldest outdoor school programs in the country. We have been running our outdoor school since 1965, almost 60 years. We've been running it at Walker Creek Ranch since the early 1990s. And so we've been running it here at this facility for over 30 years. We did close due to COVID-19 in March of 2022. And we plan to reopen our outdoor school programs in January 2023. And we are extremely excited to have students back out here at the ranch. Our main goals of our program include science education, social emotional learning, nature connection, and environmental awareness. And so all of our curriculum and programs are designed to support those goals. Go ahead and click to the next slide, please. And I want to note that there will be an opportunity at the end of this presentation. I know I'm speaking a lot here, and I will for a little bit longer. There'll be an opportunity at the end here for any questions that you might have. So Walker Creek Ranch, we're located in West Marin, and if you look at the little map on the side there, we're kind of sandwiched between Point Reyes, Petaluma, and Novato would be to the south. We're about a 30-minute drive from Petaluma and Novato. We have this beautiful property that's about 5 miles away from the ocean in Tomales Bay. We have almost 2,000 acres of property that we get to run our outdoor school from. We have over 20 miles of trails. We have Walker Creek that runs through the property and out to Tomales Bay that have river otters and coho salmon, and we have tons of different types of ecosystems here and habitats. We have a 4-acre pond, and we have probably the freshest water in Marin County that we tap into on Coyote Peak, which is shown on the map there. And we just let that come down into the facility and have fresh, wonderful water for our guests. One other thing to note is we are about 15 minutes response time from Hicks Valley Fire Department. They know us very well, and we have a great relationship with them. They know that we have students out here, and they are quick to respond if we ever have an emergency and need some support. Go ahead and click to the next slide. And so, you know, oftentimes when people think of Walker Creek Ranch, they think of tents, or that we might not have walls or ceilings or heat or electricity. And we have all those things. We have a beautiful facility out here with lots of amenities. Up on the kind of right-hand corner of this slide here are our student cabins, newly painted and renovated, ready for students to arrive. We have a wonderful dining hall, which is kind of in the center picture at the bottom here. Shows our amphitheater and what inside of our cabins look like. It's a dorm, kind of cabin dorm style that we have our students sleep on, bunk beds. Our bunk beds are going to be, and our cabins will be organized by school, so we won't be mixing schools due to COVID. So we'll have our schools staying together in cabins when they're here at the ranch. So we have a beautiful facility out here with a lot of amenities to make sure students are safe and warm and having a good time while they're here. I'll say if we go right back, I want to point out one other thing. That barn in the left there is what we refer to as the boogie barn. And that's where we have the barn boogie. And so students are going to participate in the barn boogie if they are interested and comfortable with that. And it's a lot of fun. It's a highlight of many students' experience here at Walker Creek Ranch. So that's the boogie barn right there in the left-hand upper corner. We can go to the next slide. All right, so we have a lot of great resources on our Walker Creek Ranch website. I highly recommend that folks take a look at that. Under the outdoor education tab, there's lots of information as well as access to all of the forms and that parents are going to need to fill out, as well as there's a teacher guide and a cabin leader coordinator guide in there. So tons of information for folks to learn about the ranch and prepping themselves for their time at the ranch. We also have a great video that's on our website. And so I'd like to just take a few minutes just to look at the video. It's about 6 minutes long, but I think it gives a nice glimpse into what Walker Creek Ranch, the experience of Walker Creek Ranch looks like. So Melina, if we could go ahead and show that video.
Sure, and let me know how the sound is.
Okay. Sound is good.
We are going to Turtle Pond and we are going to get our hands in the water. Yeah.
My name is Patrick McLaughlin. I'm the ranch manager at Walker Creek Ranch. Walker Creek Ranch is owned and operated by the Marin County Office of Education, and they've been running the outdoor school program here since 1990. The main goals of the outdoor school program are to provide a safe and inclusive place for students to come and connect with science, with nature, with the community here, and with themselves.
What has drawn me towards Walker Creek Ranch in particular is the access that we have to the amazing landscape. We're on 1,700 acres, so it's huge, it's beautiful, there's lots of different types of ecosystems. We have a creek, we have a peak, we've got forests, all of that, and access to the type of people that are here too. We're really close to the Bay Area, so the types of students and people and guests that come to Walker Creek are like our ecosystems. There's lots of different types of people, lots of different races, lots of different backgrounds, and I think that's really special to be able to do this work in a place that is so close to a major city.
At Walker Creek Ranch, you are immersed in nature and science. You can't get that in a classroom.
I think it's so important for students to just get outdoor experiences in general, and this is a good supplement to just the school system and getting them outside of their comfort zone and being able to be in a learning and welcoming space that isn't being in school and isn't being in a traditional classroom. So it gets them accustomed to being one with nature and feeling connected, as well as learning important science concepts that they'd be learning in school, but in the setting.
Everyone who comes here just gets this feeling of being a part of nature. We live in a busy time, and this provides a learning environment that it's a little slower, it's a little more hands-on. There's not a ton of distractions out here. Breaking away from the technology a little bit and understanding and immersing yourself in nature that's all around us.
I want students to know that they belong in nature and that every student, regardless of their background, deserves this space. I think Walker Creek Ranch is such a beautiful, peaceful, wild place for students to see.
The community of naturalists that work here, they are so dedicated to their work, so dedicated to students, so dedicated to connecting people with nature. And they care so much about the people that come. I love working with them.
At Walker Creek Ranch, the staff and the naturalists are helpful, they're kind, they're very knowledgeable about kids and what their needs are, as well as the science and the curriculum that they're teaching us. California state standards are covered throughout the day, and you just really get a feeling for the world that's out here. It's really incredible.
Why would we care about the bugs? Your kids are probably going to ask. The bugs really indicate the health of the creek and the watershed as a whole.
I love taking students down to the creek or to the ponds.
When we come here to Walker Creek, they're in nature, they're in the creek, they're running through the hills, they're picking things off the ground and studying them. You can't beat that. It doesn't happen in the classroom. It only happens here, and that's why it's such a magical place for me and my students.
By the end of the pond study, you have students running up to you because they caught a tadpole and they have an insect that they've never seen and they have no idea what it is. When you hand students a net, they know what to do with it. You just need to be the person who gives them the net.
It changes their lives. It really does. They're more grown up, more mature, and have a better understanding of where they fit into the world around them.
Outdoor education just makes sure that our society is in line with setting up the next generation to do better and to take care of our only home, our one planet.
When the students leave and go back into their communities, I think that the biggest thing that we can give them is a sense of possibility and opening up of awareness that places like this exist and that they deserve to experience them.
So if we're doing a solo hike, what can we guess we might be doing right now?
Hiking alone.
Hiking alone. Do we think this is alone? I'm just gonna send you out into the woods and you're just gonna do whatever? No, that would make me really nervous.
The thing I look forward to the most is watching the kids grow. They come here sometimes a little bit immature, not as responsible. And when they leave here, they have a respect for themselves that you can't teach, you can only experience.
Our goal is that this is not the end of their experience. This is the beginning. They've discovered new ways of looking at nature. They've discovered new ways of interacting with one another. And they take those ideas and bring them back into their communities and share them with their families, in their schools, and incorporate them into their lives as well.
This is officially the best trip ever. So am I.
Lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. 4, 5, it won't be long. Short till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Thank you, Melina. I do know that there's been a few questions in the chat, and so we will make sure that we get to those. I know that someone also asked for a link to our website. I don't know, Melina, if you're able to put that link in the chat for them, that would be wonderful. So a little bit more about what the experience is like for the students. And so, students are going to be arriving. We're going to be running 4-day programs this spring, 4 and 3-day, but mainly 4-day programs. So what arrival day looks like for the kiddos is that they arrive from their schools around 10:30. They'll be arriving at Walker Creek Ranch. We get the luggage out of the buses, and we have opening ceremony where we talk about expectations and get students excited about what the week's going to look like. Right after the opening ceremony, they're also put into their cabin groups. And so typically cabin groups are made up of about 10 students. And then 2 cabin groups will make up a trail group. And so again, cabin groups are about 10 students, and then trail groups are about 20 students, which are a trail group is made up of 2 cabin groups. And those cabin groups will be assigned a naturalist, and that naturalist will be their naturalist for the entirety of the week. The first thing that they'll do is once they get their naturalist, is they'll go on a little trail hike as well as have lunch. We do permit parents to participate in that first hike if they're interested. So if parents do want to come to the opening ceremony as well as the lunch trail activity with the naturalist up to 2:30, that's great. Welcome to do that. Then at 2:30, parents will need to say goodbye to the students, and then the students will move into their cabins and we'll start the rest of the week. Of course, we have fire drill and safety, orientation, there's cabin time there. It's also noted that every single day, the students have what's referred to as teacher time. And so there is an opportunity every day for those students to check in with their teachers and for the teachers to check in with students to make sure everything's going well. You can go to the next slide, please. And then our typical day. So once we get past our first day, arrival day, then we'll have a couple of full days. And our full day schedule starts with breakfast at 8. And then we have our academic hikes that happen in the morning. And then we have lunch. And then we have another academic hike in the afternoon. We have dinner and there's teacher time again. And then we have an evening activity every evening. And those activities change every day. One night is a campfire. Another night is a night hike where we take students out into the forest at night and look for nocturnal animals. And then another night is the boogie barn. And then we have lights out at 9:30 every night, and we do it all over again. And then our last day of program starts as normal with an 8 a.m. breakfast, but then there's a move out of cabins. And then there's a final trail hike with their trail groups. And then we have a closing ceremony, which happens around 10:30 in the morning. And parents are welcome to come back to that closing ceremony if they'd like. And then we have a quick lunch and students head home and are back home after that. Go ahead and click to the next slide. So one other thing I want to just talk about quickly before opening up to questions is parent packets. And so on our website, we have, again, lots of information that can be found there, including our parent packets. And in our parent packets, it has packing lists. It has the registration and health forms that need to be filled out before students come. Specific to the health form, if you do have a student that has medications, we want to make sure if they're prescription medications, they do require a doctor's signature. I know the schools are really well versed in how that works, but we want to make sure that those medications are sent with a doctor's signature. There's also a form about authorization to administer medications. We do have some over-the-counter medications here that we can administer to students with parent approval. One of those things would also be a COVID test. So if you are able and are willing, you can authorize us to do a COVID test of your student while they're here if they became symptomatic. Lastly, there is a dietary information form that needs to be filled out. Super important if you have a student that has any dietary restrictions, needs, allergies, we want to know that information well in advance so that we can make sure that we can accommodate that student. I usually get a question from a parent about a student with, you know, kind of dietary restrictions, and if there are involved restrictions or limitations on the dietary, it's probably best for that parent to just reach out to us here, and we can make sure that we have all the information we need to make sure the student has a safe week with us. So that's how we deal with dietary information. And we can go to the next slide. And so the last thing I want to point out is I know that a lot of you probably saw this flyer. These are our upcoming presentations, but we do have some open houses that are going to be happening as well. So on Wednesday, December 7th, as well as Wednesday, March 1st, we are going to have an open house here at Walker Creek Ranch. So if there are folks that are interested in coming to the ranch to see it, we'll do a little walk around and can show you the cabins, and there'll be a Spanish translation for that as well. And then we do have a couple of other presentations that we'll be doing. One more on Zoom on November 17th, and then we are actually going to have an in-person presentation at the Marin County Office of Education central office in Las Colinas and San Rafael on November 29th at 6 p.m. for folks that would like to meet in person and talk a little bit more. So we can go to the next slide, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Maybe what we can do first is we can maybe look at the chat here to see what questions we might have.
Patrick, I've had a couple of questions both in English and Spanish. Can you clarify the age range of the students? Is it all 5th grade?
Yeah, so we typically work with fifth and 6th grade students. That's right. So our residential program is mainly 5th and 6th grade. There are a few special programs that we do with younger students, but for the most part, it's 5th and 6th grade students. Was there any other questions in the chat, Melina?
Let's see. Jenny just asked, you said that schools won't bunk together. What if they are from the same district?
That's a great question. I think that part of it is going to be what, we work with the schools to create cabin lists. But I think that generally speaking, our goal is to keep students by school while we're still in COVID. And then maybe trail groups would have different schools, but the actual cabin itself, we're going to do our best to keep that as just one school.
Great. What about adults and guardians? How many per school is required?
So typically a school is going to bring cabin leaders, and those cabin leaders are going to be staying in the cabins. And so we would want the correct number of cabin leaders for the number of cabins that the school is going to have. So if you had a school of 100 and there was 10 students in each cabin, then you would need 10 cabin leaders. And then we typically ask that the classroom teacher student ratio is about 1 to 25, about the same size of a classroom. And so we have several layers of adults that are here helping support with the outdoor school. So we have our staff, we have cabin leaders that are in the cabins with the students, about a 1 to 10 ratio. And then we have our classroom teachers that are here, about a 1 to 25 ratio.
Great. What about bunking? Can kiddos choose their own bunk mates?
That is typically worked out through the schools. And so our classroom teachers will be creating those bunk and class or cabin lists, and then they send those to us ahead of time. And I believe that most teachers have some system of getting bunk buddy requests, knowing full well that that's a complicated thing to make sure that everybody gets to be with all of their buddies. So I think that the classroom teachers will work through that to identify who will be in what cabin while they're here.
Great. What about the responsibilities for a cabin leader? What can they expect?
So cabin leaders, and we love cabin leaders. If we have some cabin leaders that are joining us tonight, thank you, thank you, thank you. We could not run our program without you. So what the cabin leaders' responsibilities mainly is just that the safety and well-being of those students when they're in their cabins. They will be staying in the cabins with them at night. They'll make sure that the students are, taking care of themselves, brushing their teeth, that they're happy and healthy and doing well. They are not responsible for any of the programming per se. Our naturalists will be running all the programs. We do ask the cabin leaders to help with group management and just working with the students while we're out on trail, but they're not asked to be, teaching or running any of the curriculum. They also are asked to help in the dining hall during the meals, to stay at the tables with their cabin groups and help serve the students. So they're just with that cabin group going through the experience. We do provide an opportunity for cabin leaders on all of our full days to have a little bit of break away from those students. And so we do give our cabin leaders a little bit of time to have some away time from the kids. But for the most part, they're with the kids from arrival until the departure.
Great, thank you. So one question also that's come up, are the girls and boys separated in cabins?
Typically the answer to that would be yes. We again work with the schools, and the schools will be making those lists. If we have someone that is a gender nonconforming student, we would work with the school to make sure that that student was in a location that was comfortable for them. But for the most part, it is separated by gender. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to jump over to 2 allergy questions really quickly.
Yeah.
If somebody has bad allergies, you know, like hay fever, those types of things,
Yeah.
can the parents send a antihistamine? How does that normally handled?
Yes, they can. Any medication that is sent with a student needs to come with a doctor's signature. We do have some medications here, like Benadryl and things like that, that can be used over the counter. But anything that is sent with a student does need to come with a physician's signature. One other thing to note is that if you do have a student that has allergies, it's important to note that because we're in the time of COVID right now, allergy symptoms and COVID symptoms are very similar. And so we would want to know that that student had allergies, known allergies, so that if they were to start to become symptomatic or have allergies while they're here, that it's not misconstrued as being symptomatic, like flu-like symptoms, if you will.
Great. What about a severe peanut allergy? Would it be safe to send them?
We do not serve any peanut products here at Walker Creek Ranch. And so absolutely 100% safe to send them. Really important that you indicate that there is a peanut allergy, but we do not serve peanuts or peanut products to students at Walker Creek Ranch.
Great.
Any student. Yeah.
Awesome. We've had quite a few questions about requirements for a cabin leader. Is there any kind of background check, fingerprinting, anything like that?
That is a great question. And gosh, I can't remember. I believe that there is a live scan requirement for our cabin leaders if they are adults, if they're parents, that we do require a live scan. I'm going to have to get back on that. I don't know if there's an administrator, a school administrator that's on right now that is familiar with that question, but I believe the answer is yes, we require live scans. Is there an administrator that is?
Yeah, it says somebody seems to know that
Yeah.
Yes, there is a requirement.
Yes, there's a requirement. Thank you. It's been 2 years since, but yeah, so there's a requirement for live scan for parent cabin leaders.
And for naturalists, everybody at Walker Creek goes through the full.
Absolutely. So yeah, going back to that, the Marin County Office of Education has a lot of requirements in order for us to hire staff. So everyone is fingerprinted, everyone is background checked, and everyone is trained on mandated reporting, and all of the other requirements in order to basically work for a public agency that serves students.
Okay, great. Let's see here. We've
I'll
had a
also
couple.
say that everyone is also vaccinated for COVID-19. That's a requirement for our Department of Education. And we will be doing testing of all of our staff on a weekly basis as well.
Great. We've had a couple questions about cost.
Yeah.
What is the cost?
So the cost is on our website. I know that so we have a cost that we charge the schools, but I know that some schools have to add on additional cost to that for busing and for paying for the classroom teachers to participate as well. So that's actually a hard question for me to answer, because schools, depending on their bus needs and costs for buses, it might fluctuate a little bit by school. So I would say that would be a question to ask the school itself.
Is it, as far as COVID vaccinations are concerned, do the cabin leaders and or the children have to be vaccinated?
They do not. We're following the SMARTER plan. It's recommended, it's encouraged, but it is not a requirement.
Let's see here. We have a lot of questions about cabin leaders. People want to know like details, like what does their day look like, which I don't know if you can answer that right now.
So cabin leaders, their day looks like they're basically shadowing the daily schedule of the student. So if we went back to the slideshow, Melina, and go to the daily schedule.
Yeah, give me one moment.
Yeah.
Sorry, my computer just decided to slow down. It's 5 o'clock for my computer.
So I think it's probably slide 7, something like that, is the daily schedule. So, that's arrival day. If you go to the next one. So that's kind of our daily schedule. So, students are getting up, the cabin leaders are with the students when they get up in the morning around 7, have breakfast with the students. They're going out on trail with the students. They're having lunch. Typically recess is something that is supported by the classroom teacher. So there's a little bit of a time for a break there for our cabin leaders. Then there's an afternoon hike. There's snack and cabin time. Cabin leaders are with their students. The real break is during teacher time. So when the students are with their teachers from 6 to 7:15, that's like the window of time that our cabin leaders have off. So it's a commitment. It's super fun, super important, but it's a commitment for the duration of the week that the cabin leaders are with those students most of the time.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
We've had people ask a couple of times, do you know what schools are going? I know that there's a lot, so
yeah,
that would be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, we have right now like 2,600 kids on the books. I'd have to look through the schedule, but it's we have probably 30 schools that are going to be coming. Our program is going to run from January 17th is our first day of program, and it runs through June 6th. So we have 21 weeks of program, and depending on the size of the school, sometimes we have large schools that it's just one school here for the week, and other times we have small schools where we have lots of different schools here for the week. But as far as the actual number, I'd have to look at our schedule. I think there's over 20, maybe even 30 different schools that we'll be serving in the spring.
Great. Let's see here. What is there any circumstances where a child would be sent home?
There are circumstances where a child would be sent home, and really what I say to that is it is absolutely our desire to keep kids here. We understand how important it is. We do have a check system where students can get checks for misbehaving. They also do have the ability to erase some checks depending on their behavior. But if we get to a point where a student's behavior is impacting the experience of other students to a high degree, then it's unfair in our thinking to keep one student here when they're negatively impacting the experience of the rest of the students. And so we would be working with the classroom teacher and the principal of the school and the parent or the guardian to make those decisions. It doesn't happen very often, but there are times when if it's a very egregious behavior, something like with violence or something along that nature, then we would take that very seriously, obviously. But we want to give students an opportunity to grow and to make mistakes and to learn while they're here as well. And so it does happen from time to time, but it's pretty rare. And most of our kiddos you know, figure out what we need from them, which is really just being kind to each other and being respectful, and everything else is good.
Great. We've had a couple questions about what to bring. I'm going to re-bring up the packing list.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, can you let them know about, can my kid bring their phone?
So we do not permit cell phones to be here. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is we don't have cell service out here at all. We also really, you know, the goal of this one of the goals of this week is to have students, give them an opportunity to disconnect for just a couple of days. And so and those are electronic devices that are quite expensive, and we don't want students to be bringing expensive things out to Walker Creek Ranch. And so if you look at the packing list here, which again is also on our website, is that there's no electronic devices such as cell phones, tablets, or laptops permitted for students to bring. Some other, you know, really important things, you know, they don't need any money. They don't need to be bringing any money with them or valuables while they're here. Disposable cameras are an awesome idea. I highly encourage that. I would discourage someone having their student come out with a $300 digital camera, just because I would be afraid that it would break, and we don't want that to happen. So disposable cameras are highly encouraged. You know, basic needs are shown here of what we would want students to bring. They need to bring a sleeping bag and a pillow, or sheets and blankets work just as well. They should bring a couple pairs of shoes. We highly recommend just lots of layers for the students, so that they, you know, if the morning's cold, they can wear a lot of layers and kind of pull those layers off as the day goes on. It's great for them to bring a backpack if they have it, a little backpack or something that they can throw their gear in during the day. It's good for them to have flip-flops or something that they can take to the shower. I'll say also about how the showers work here, is that they are basically little closets that we have in our bathhouse. So they're private spaces for students to shower. There's like a shower section, and then there's like a changing section. And so in the bathhouse, the students do have privacy in order to shower as well as to change. And so that's really important. But the packing list is pretty good. That has all the things that they should and should not be bringing.
Great, thank you. Can you address kind of medical care? Is there a nurse out there? I know all the naturalists and managers, they're about as first aid certified as possible.
Good question. So we actually have the classroom teachers. They're the ones they'll be the ones in the health center to accept any student that has needs. And then if they need additional support, I'm a EMT. We have some other wilderness first responders on our staff. And then if we need to go to a higher level than that, we have Hicks Valley Fire Department that's 15 minutes away. They can be here in a staff if we need them. And I'll also say, if we have an emergency that requires us to have someone here quicker than 15 minutes, there's helicopters that can be out here in about 7. And we've had that have to happen a few times. So we're real good at making sure students are safe, and real good at making decisions if we need to call in additional emergency medical support. But the classroom teachers are the ones that are in the health center. They're the ones that are administering the medications, and they know how to contact us. They have a radio, they have a phone. If they need additional support, we can be there to help with that.
Great, thank you. I know we already talked about no nut products and not sending any, but can kids, if they have, you know, a fruit roll up or whatever they have, can they bring it with them in the bunk at night for snacking?
So we do not permit students to have snacks in their cabins. We do a real good job to make sure that students do get enough to eat. If you had a particular student that had some sort of a medical need for snacks, we can certainly work with that. But we do not typically have students with snacks in cabins. It's just, it can result in mice and all kinds of things. So we don't do that, but we have 3 meals a day. We have a snack on our full days. We have an all-day hike that we do as well, and I haven't mentioned that, but one of our days is an all-day adventure where students go to Walker Peak and they bring their lunch with them. And so while they're on the hike, they have some, you know, they'll make sandwiches, but they also bring some snacks that they can have when they want them. So they would have an apple that they could have whenever they decided they wanted to have that.
Great. Let's see. Do you do letters to home?
Yeah, and I highly recommend to send stationery with your student if you can. I have found that it helps with homesickness. And so it's a great way for students to communicate it. It's important to note that we have a 4-day program. And so, you know, if we have students that are mailing things on their last day of program, they'll probably beat that letter home. But I would encourage students to write letters. I think it's a wonderful thing. We can mail them daily. I'd also encourage parents to send letters to their students. And there's a lot of different ways that I've seen that done. Sometimes parents will work with the classroom teachers and get some letters prepped ahead of time so that those classroom teachers can, you know, maybe there's a Monday letter and a Tuesday letter and a Wednesday letter, and they're all written ahead of time, or you can send them to Walker Creek Ranch, and we get mail every day and we deliver it to our classroom teachers who then distribute those to the students.
Great. Do cabin leaders and staff members, do they ride the bus with everybody?
Typically, yes. Okay. Yes, they would. We have, you know, some schools bring buses, some schools have parents drive out students, so it's really up to the school. But if it was a school bus, I would say most likely we would need cabin leaders to join. I would probably leave that up to the school. You know, if we have cabin leaders that are driving out by themselves, but typically I would say the answer is that the cabin leaders would be on the bus with the students.
Okay, great. Maricela really wants to know if at lights out, if they can stay awake afterwards, or do you force them to go to sleep?
We ask students to try to go to bed at lights out. You know, one thing that I have found with students is that the first night might be a little hard to fall asleep just because it's a new place and new sounds and you're excited and you're with your friends. But I have found that we keep kids pretty busy. And so as the week goes on, they do better and better with sleeping. But we do want students to go to bed when the lights are out so that they can feel good and be ready for the next day.
Great. If a staff member is going with their grade, does their day look pretty much the same as the cabin leader?
Our classroom teachers?
No, not Walker Creek classroom teachers, but if a staff member from the school is going with the group, but is not a cabin leader, does their day look pretty much the same?
Well, the classroom teacher's day is a little bit different. So the classroom teachers stay in the teacher's lodge, and they have some responsibilities to, you know, participate in meals, and they help with kind of walking rounds in the morning, making sure students are getting up and getting ready and kind of supporting with classroom teachers. They do some cabin checks during the day. We always do ask that at least one classroom teacher just stays in the teacher's lodge at all times. So if there is a student that is coming to, because the health center is actually connected to the teacher's lodge. So we would want a classroom teacher to be in there at all times. But there's a little bit of flexibility for the classroom teachers. Most of them will be going out on the trails and checking in and participating in the hikes and checking in on their kiddos during the day. But they have a little bit more flexibility to kind of rove around and support where needed.
Great. How often will there be time for showers?
So every full day of program, there is shower time. So when students arrive on the first day of program, we do not do showers with the assumption that they've taken a shower before they arrived. And on the last day of program, when they leave, we also don't do showers, assuming when they get home, they will take a shower. But on our 2 full days of program, students are given a shower time that they that's used for their showers.
Great. What will meals look like as far as the type of food?
So we have prided ourselves on meals for a long time. It is noted that we're currently kind of working on our food service plan. But typically the way the meals work is that breakfast, lunch, and dinner, kind of your traditional breakfast, lunches, and dinners, from spaghetti at dinner to like quesadillas for lunch, maybe pancakes for breakfast, French toast for breakfast, kind of campy food, but healthy, good, and lots of it to make sure that students have the calories they need in order to have fun out on the trail.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, so it says no bug spray, but what about the lotion, the mosquito off lotion?
I discourage kids from bringing those types of things. It's not very buggy out here. We don't really have mosquitoes here unless if it just rained and you're down at the creek, there might be 1 or 2, but it is not like being in, the Midwest or in the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's not very buggy here. I just generally discourage students from bringing any chemical spray. Other kids have sensitivities around those things. So I'm not saying that it's absolutely no, but I strongly discourage the need for that. It's not really necessary, bug spray here.
All right. I think I got to all the questions.
You're doing a great job, Melina.
Thanks.
Yeah. Is there any other, I want to make sure that people have any other questions that we've missed. If there's any other questions, happy to answer. I will also say that, a lot of the classroom teachers, looks like we might have a hand up there.
Yeah, Levi, do you want to go ahead and put your question in the chat?
There was a question about sunscreen. Sunscreen is fine. I would encourage it for sure. It's pretty sunny out here and students out all day. Sunscreen is super important. So I would encourage sunspray or sunscreen rather, for sure. And spray versus lotion. I would say this, if they're using, the only thing about spray is it's just it gets an aerosol and it gets into the air, and some people might be sensitive to it. So I guess lotion would probably be better. If they were going to use spray, we would want them to do it outside the cabin. But we definitely want to bring some sunscreen. Is there a washing machine there? If not, so we do have a washing machine. If like in case of emergency kind of a thing, we don't typically wash students' clothes. I mean, you can only imagine if we had 150 students here, what that would be like. So we encourage students to come with adequate clothing. And if something was to happen, if there was to be a reason why we needed to wash something, there is a washing machine in the teacher's lodge that we can use in rare cases that we need it. But for the most part, we want folks to bring enough clothes for students to not have to do washing.
Okay. And then people are asking too, for the cabin leaders, are they high school students?
It depends on the school. Some schools have high school students that are cabin leaders. Other schools have parent volunteers that are cabin leaders. It just depends. And I'll say that there are wonderful things about both of those populations of cabin leaders. And so if there's concern about high school cabin leaders or parent cabin leaders, they both bring different things. and they always do a really great job with these kids. And we have a cabin leader coordinator position, which I haven't really talked about, but just know cabin leaders, there is a training that happens when you arrive. We make sure that you're set up for success and you have all the information that you need. You get a binder when you arrive that has lots of information in it. There's a training that happens before you get your students. And then there's support every single day and check-ins with you from the naturalists on how things are going. And if you need support during the week, we're here to help you. So you're not completely on your own with these kids. You have supports while you're here.
And how many kids would be there on any given week?
So I'd say average, we'll have about 120 or 130 students per week. It fluctuates a little bit from week to week, but about 130, which is actually smaller than normal. We've decided to keep our numbers down a little bit as we kind of restart our program. You know, oftentimes we've had more like 170, 180, but for this spring, we're going to keep the numbers down because of we're just restarting. We want to make sure that it's really successful.
Okay, we're getting a lot of questions now that seems like they might need to communicate with their school. Like, what is the date they're coming?
Got it. Yeah, so that would, the school would have the information for that on dates and all that information. Yeah.
If you have any other questions, please feel free to put it in the chat.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate everybody's participation tonight. Again, we look forward to serving your students. We look forward, if there's cabin leaders that are on this call, if there's classroom teachers that are on this call, we are so incredibly excited to start running Walker Creek Ranch again. You know, we have an incredible population of foxes that have taken over a little bit, so it'll be fun for you to be here and to see the foxes that are here. And we are just so excited to have you back. Again, we have some additional presentations that are coming. We have an open house that'll be here at Walker Creek Ranch in December. We encourage folks to participate in those if you have further questions, and to work with your classroom teachers. If there's additional questions, they can always reach out to us, and we can try our best to answer that or those questions. And again, thanks so much for your time, and we look forward to having students out here and in the spring season. And thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, take good care.